Perfect. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome, everyone. It's a privilege to host this event today on behalf of Women in AI USA. And I'm sure everyone is super excited to listen to our global experts on this hot topic that has taken the world, I would say, as a tsunami over the last 2 months, and has caused a lot of social turmoil, economic turmoil, and unfortunately also a lot of confusion. Those of us that care a lot about ethics and compliance and privacy and have been advocating for many years for appropriate data governance, for appropriate informed consent, for upholding all the ethics principles, as you can imagine, we have a lot to say about the topic of generative AI. And I'm sure that our experts will provide valuable insights today that all of you can learn from and appreciate. You only need to see the latest news media from World Economic Forum, United Nations, European Commission, all the way to all the consulting firms, top newspapers front page, from the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal to the Atlantic and Frankfurter Allgemeine, Corriere della Sera. I mean, every major news outlet has addressed this issue. And although those of us that are in the technology space were familiar with generative AI for many years, for many in the audience and perhaps around the world, it's the first time they are aware, and it's the first time that they truly understand the impact that AI, and more specifically our topic today, generative AI, can have in their life. So what I would like us to do today, first, we'll listen to a brief keynote from Bhuva Shakti. She's the North America lead for Women in AI, as well as Chief Ethics and Culture Officer for Women in AI Global. And then we're gonna proceed to the roundtable. So again, for our audience, please send us your questions, comments, concerns in the chat, and I'll curate at the end. We'll make sure we allow at least 10 minutes for questions and answers because we're eager to hear what your opinions are. And additionally, of course, after this, we invite you all to continue to continue our dialogue virtually. We're going to post this recording for your friends that maybe were not able to attend, and please feel free to comment online as well. So what we'll do first, please allow me to formally introduce Bhuva Shakti. She's the Chief Ethics and Culture Officer and Global Management Board member at Women in AI. She wasn't able to attend in person, but as I mentioned in a moment ago, she's gonna deliver a keynote virtually. She's also a non-profit community of leaders in AI and data science advocate. With an MBA from Columbia University in New York and as a senior director at Capgemini, she has managed diverse multinational teams and launched several technology products in the investment banking, capital markets risk, and regulatory compliance industry. As the financial inclusion advisor at WalletMax, Bhuva is committed to positive planet impact, sustainable business transformation, and green revenue strategies. Bhuva is an early stage investor in social innovation startups with a vision to accelerate economic freedom and reduce inequalities. On a personal level, I can call her my friend, and we also collaborate in the World Business Angel Forum, where she recently joined us on our board. So I'm really grateful for all her contributions around the world. So now please allow me to briefly share the video, and after that we'll proceed to introduce all our other amazing guest speakers that will be part of the panel, okay? Real quick, the video should play very quickly now. Please let me know if you are not able to hear the audio.
Experiences that fascinate our clients. Hey everyone, Bhuva here. I'm the Chief Ethics and Culture Officer at Women in AI and a Senior Director for Finance and Compliance at Capgemini, based in New York. Thanks again for joining in today for an exploration of responsible use of generative AI technology. Especially, I'd like to share my views around business use cases in banking and payments, and more importantly, the socioeconomic implications with respect to financial inclusion and integrated with ethics as well. As we know, artificial intelligence is now an integral part of our daily lives, regardless of whether you are a technologist or a consumer, from voice assistants like Siri and Alexa to customer service chatbots that pop up on our websites most of these days. And within AI, the machine learning models are constantly learning from large volume data patterns without human direction, and thus advancing the machines to replicate human intelligence and efficiently tackle complex tasks at ease. With so much hype around ChatGPT recently, a free chatbot with generative pre-trained transformer from OpenAI, there are positive applications in many industries, like medical imaging analysis and high resolution weather forecasts and so on. But on the contrary, there are several ethical and regulatory concerns. We hear about it every day, ranging from originality of authors' writings, intellectual property rights through student homeworks, and the most controversial artwork similar to how humans create, right? So going far beyond predictive modeling, generative AI these days not only just perceives and classifies data, but we see everyday examples of how machine learning is able to generate on-demand text or image content based on its own pattern intelligence. And within the global financial services industry, recent surveys indicate that the top CEOs, CFOs, and CTOs have elevated AI to be the best return on investment. And it's consistent, be it inflation with or without the current macroeconomic uncertainty. And in fact, from the traditional investment banks to large fintechs, and also every day we have new startups upcoming, especially at the frontier of insurance transformation. The C-suite goals remain the same. How can we more accurately predict and eliminate risk, not just manage? And accuracy to the 100% is critical in finance. How can we run lean organizations while scaling across markets and minimizing operating costs? And last but not the least, how can we provide seamless, real-time, and personalized experiences that fascinate our clients and customers? The top AI use cases turned out to be natural language processing and large language models, which are deep learning algorithms critical for generative AI to recognize, summarize, translate, predict, and generate content on demand, and also based on knowledge that they have gained from massive data sets. And these are estimated to capture at least 26% of financial transformation applications in the future. And the second next is portfolio optimization and investments growth at 23%. And definitely fraud detection is looming around 22%. And this is even on high performance trading floors, right? If we want to go into an example use case in banking, where we can benefit from generative AI, it's the explosion of synthetic data. These are created by AI themselves to enhance privacy protection on the customer data that the banks have been accumulating over the last several years, right? So no longer it's feasible to just anonymize data because it's sequential, like a time series, it's mapped to the customer behavior and transactions. So we need AI-powered synthetic generators that are valuable since they can augment, diversify, as well as simulate data on top of anonymizing it. So these are AI-powered synthetic data generators. However, in this scenario, we recently heard about a large investment bank on Wall Street that acquired a financial planning company for $175 million, only to realize later, after the acquisition is complete, that the customer accounts that they were looking at were synthetic, and generative AI had made it really credible. So human intervention and expertise is always a must to responsibly use human-like technologies, especially in finance, where we deal with regular people's lives and hard-earned incomes every day. Now, moving on to the payment sector, generative AI can proactively detect and prevent complex fraud in real time, while increasing revenue for business owners and financial institutions at the same time. But again, large amounts of standardized transaction data is critical to help fight fraud effectively. In fact, generative models can also react faster to live data. They can continuously keep updating your dashboards to find out new fraud attacks, which are these days often performed against new payment methods. So, I mean, they can get down to the geographic region, by a specific customer group, you name it, right? Thus, this kind of enormously reduces manual effort, especially a lot of the fraud compliance managers, right? But the key here is high quality data to make accurate predictions. So if the data is incomplete, inaccurate, or outdated, then the results can be unreliable. So lastly, I want to touch upon the FICO score or the credit score, right? So the FICO score, these cannot be generated for people without financial or credit records, right? So these days, some people could be unbanked, underbanked, meaning they don't have digital access or they don't have credit history, but they have a small business in their local community. So how can we ensure that we don't exclude those deserving customers who can get microfinance for their small business, but are not eliminated from the financial ecosystem, right? So in this sense, generative AI can really help expand financial inclusion from a socioeconomic perspective with analytics and insights from large sets of customer data. And further, it can model those to predict creditworthiness of a similar future customer. So it's really important for such micro entrepreneurs to build and grow their local businesses, and of course, communities that are locally thriving, right? So generative AI can parse through disparate raw data sets, and it can also enable fintechs to refine loan applications. So maybe you add alternative evaluation criteria so that you get to faster credit decisioning, but through different parameters, right? So this also reduces the company's risk exposure, right? So you are considering all aspects, and thus this increases inclusive economies worldwide, right? Now, on the flip side, there's a possibility of unconscious bias from historic data sets. So that could still eliminate people based on certain demographic factors, right? It could be race, gender, ethnicity, age, accessibility, so on and so forth. But as I had mentioned earlier, human integrated generative AI decisions are critical, and we need to build tighter ethical AI governance. Thanks again, everyone, for this opportunity. So if you have any questions or you want to chat more about this topic or you want to learn more about women in AI, please connect with me on LinkedIn. My handle is right behind. Goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed this wonderful keynote, and it's a prelude to the rest of our event where we'll have a roundtable discussion with our other guest speakers. Although the keynote was on finance, I want to encourage our audience to submit questions on everything, because our roundtable discussion now will be industry agnostic, and we'll try to address some of the key ethics and regulatory as well as data governance concerns that have absolutely cross-industry and cross-discipline applications. Please allow me to briefly introduce our other guest speakers. First, Lavina Ramikson. She's considered a thought leader in pioneering technology, passionate about humanity, technology, economics, and dance. Besides the 20 years of experience in technology, she holds added knowledge in the fields of psychology and artificial intelligence. Lavina is an AI ethics mentor and driver for Africa's artificial intelligence potential. She advocates around the world to create meaningful, innovative solutions that help shape the African continent, and advocates for technology for good, or tech for good, as we affectionately call it, in underdeveloped countries. Her specialization, besides being a podcast guest, is in emerging technology spaces, including agri-tech, fintech, health tech, law tech, retail tech, and growing the ecosystem. She aims to educate, inspire, and drive AI innovations across Africa. Thank you for joining us, Lavina. Great.
Thank you so much for having me.
And then next, I would like to introduce Ana Turkan. She has 10 years experience in international development in the public and private sectors and has driven various major development projects during this time. Currently, Ana serves as Data Spaces Growth Development and Partnerships Officer at the DIO, which is the Data Intelligence Offensive in Vienna, Austria. At DIO, she is responsible for establishing and to maximize the impact of data spaces, ideation of use cases, together with DIO members and development of DIO's partnerships on national and European levels. During her time with the Institute for Advanced Research in Artificial Intelligence in Vienna, she has designed, developed, and managed the international agenda for the Institute. She also developed the Institute's strategic partnerships, for example, the European Space Agency, with objectives ranging from data sharing, joint research projects, research exchange, data competitions and workshops, etc. Her field of expertise lies in the area of researching funding opportunities, funding applications, technical programs and grants, and managing EU calls for tenders. Ana was driving strategic community engagement activities with EU institutions, governments, corporate and academia via building relationships within the AI and machine learning industry over the past decade. Prior to joining IARAI, Ana was a policy advisor within the World Artificial Intelligence Organization. And also previously, she was a business developer and researcher with Metis Vienna and a project manager in Steinbeis Innovation Centrum in Stuttgart. She graduated the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna and speaks 7 languages. And I think next, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you I'm gonna introduce Katja Rausch. She also has a bio that would take me an hour to read, so please forgive me already that I had to trim it a little bit, so I apologize.
It's ChatGPT.
Yes. Katja teaches linguistics and information systems at Sorbonne Management School and has launched one of the first classes on data ethics in the Paris School of Business. She also is a lecturer at the Masters in Logistics, Marketing and Distribution and has published numerous papers. She is a renowned consultant with prior tenure at Booz Allen Hamilton while in New York City and for companies such as Nestlé and Cartier while in Europe. A global sought-after speaker, the founder of the House of Ethics and host of AI Ethics Talks. She is world-renowned and always keeps us honest and calls our attention to all the ethics concerns that are currently emerging and that we are concerned that might be evolving in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to already start our first round of questions for you. And what I thought is we'll follow the same round. I'll start with Lavina, then Ana, then Katja always, so that we give our audience a good balanced perspective. So first, I wanted to kick us off with what is the state of the union in your perspective today, given everything you see in the business ecosystem, academic ecosystem, just boots on the ground in our society? I want to remind our audience that ChatGPT had 1 million users in the first week of being released to the public. It attained 50 million users in the first month, and currently it's at 100 million users plus, which is unheard of compared to all other technologies we as a mankind have ever used. This is the highest adoption rate. It has 13 million active users, not just registered users. So for those of you that are still wondering why we picked this topic, it's because it has an unprecedented adoption rate. And with that come opportunities, but also tremendous challenges from an ethics, compliance, regulatory perspective. I think we all agree that it affects our life, our work, our entertainment, and our education. So Lavina, please share your observation.
Yeah, thanks so much for that question. As you rightfully said, it's influenced us in so many different ways. I think the initial days we saw it pretty much with the likes of, liking posts or, our sort of Netflix or our live streaming sort of choices. We kind of really fell on it from a trust perspective. even from like a Google Maps perspective, right? To take us from point A to point B from a traveling perspective. So it's been there from a very subtle, integration, I guess, for us for a very long time. But it's kind of gotten a lot of hype now. The hype is generally because it can take this entertainment industry we've been in and kind of turn it around. It's kind of also taken pretty much our business as it is and turn that around, right? Both from a design perspective, from a process perspective. So it's kind of coming to us, from both a fun perspective as well as from a practical perspective. And, and I'm sure all geeks out there will kind of agree that it is a very nifty form of machine learning, right? That sits before us, and it's about how we start applying that. I think we've seen it to a large extent in terms of task processing and automation. And, as you mentioned, I think the stats on the economy, is something like 15.7 billion by 2028. And we're looking at, just 4 years later, 200 billion, in 2032. So it's a massive impact. And that in itself will tell us from a technological perspective, we're very much on the early days of the upstream of it. We've obviously seen things like, robo-visors and, credit fraud, automation, inclusiveness. We've seen virtual assistants, all of these different angles that have been thrown at us. But, what we can say is that it started off as small digital nudges to us, and now it's growing into something of a much wider scale.
Thank you. Anna, we know that data is at the foundation of everything that we'll use in AI. So data centers and data governance, if someone didn't care about them until now hopefully they got the memo. So why don't you share your observation?
Accelerate.
Yes.
Good. So yeah, that's true. ChatGPT conquered the world in the last 100 days and made practically aware the world of the enormous potential of AI. And it is just getting started, and we might get good at it as it's revolutionizing the way we learn. By today, already hundreds of thousands of companies around the world are using the regenerative tools, all of them. ChatGPT and all the rest. And it's all about the data. No matter what we do today, we consciously and unconsciously produce data. With every click, every step, every pulse of our heartbeat can be documented and recorded. The sheer volume of data and associated options for using it for a wide variety of purposes is what creates this regenerative artificial intelligence. Data has become this valuable raw material, and as Mrs. Shakti said, important is to have the highest quality of this raw material. So data is associated with hopes and fears in equal manners. Just think about it. Meta is one of the largest media companies in US, but it doesn't produce any content itself. Airbnb is the largest hotel provider, but it does not operate any hotels itself. Uber is the largest transportation company, but doesn't have cars or buses. Alibaba or Amazon are the largest retailers, but they don't operate businesses. And ChatGPT here is based on external data processing, but they do not own this data. So what do we have here? The solution is a secure and established data sharing process for this functional data services ecosystem. It is crucial now as it comes a very high unemployment rate soon because of the automatization processes. So data and successful handling of it are the core components and decisive factor for the future of production, labor, and capital. I will continue later with more insights.
Sure, that's a great initial statement. I really appreciate it. Katya, you've been cautioning for years and created House of Ethics almost like because of something like this. So what's your opinion of the state of the union currently globally?
Well, maybe my
first intervention will be a little bit more cold and frozen, I have to say, from an ethical side. We cannot deny that this is a planetary happening. I would even call it a phenomenon. And we could even say it is a real techno-putsch that is happening right now. And I think everybody has been surprised. I think OpenAI, they were surprised. They did not really count. And when you read interviews from Mira Murati, the CTO of OpenAI, she was like, oh, our child, we let out a child and we didn't really expect it to be that famous. And then you have Sam Altman who says, well, listen, we have put out something on the market. It's not robust. It's not transparent. Please don't rely on it for impactful decision-making. So, you know, for ethics, and I'm talking about ethics here. For ethics, it's a premiere too. It's a real premiere because we have to deal with technology, which is unprecedented in scale and speed. Speed is important. And for right now, you see, maybe in 2 weeks, we will have a closer view at the EU AI Act. So it's a very timely discussion that we are having here right now, because they will include, of course, a portion about generative AI systems, which are very particular. It's not the normal AI systems. These normal AI systems, they work on pattern recognition. Here we go further. We have an element that comes within, which is uncertainty. And uncertainty and ethics, it's like water and oil. You have to be vigilant. And right now, these systems, which have a massive impact, they sit on what I call an ethical permafrost. It is freezing on the ethical side. And what Anna said, she said, well, data-wise, data ethics-wise, it is an industry scale, intellectual property theft, privacy breaches. We have to be careful about that. And then we know that the system goes rogue. It can be, and Sam Altman told us, and we see it every day, Bing, who wants to break free. Bing is suggesting, ChatGPT is suggesting spaghetti alla carbonara with the red sauce. Every Italian lover is completely in despair, traumatized. We all know that spaghetti carbonara is a white sauce. So it is a super spreader or a potential super spreader of misinformation. It can be a fountain of violence, intimidation, threats. So from the ethical side, we need to be very careful. And my third and last point on this one is, since it has been deployed with such a speed and on such a scale, we expect the highest level of responsibility. But what we see, we have the lowest sense of responsibility right now. And the lowest sense, which means you put out a product on the market that's not ready. Put out a car on the market without brakes, with the lights don't work, the horn doesn't work. Well, it's safety. And here it impacts, like Levina said, like Anna said, it impacts people, it impacts businesses, it has an impact beyond technology. It's a systemic impact. And the partner in crime, Microsoft, well, they should have known more and better. In 2016, they had TIE. And what happened, which was the chatbot, the Twitter chatbot, they had to switch it off in 48 hours. And at that time, the sense of responsibility was high. Today, we have the same problem, and the sense of responsibility is low. And that's why it's so important that we do what we do. We talk about it, we share, we generate perspectives. That's what ethics is about, a perspective generator. It's not a ruler. You should do this and should do that. So right now, I think we need to be very careful from an ethics and regulatory side. So it was a little bit freezing on my side. I'm sorry, but it's cold here. So maybe I'm influenced too.
No, but you're absolutely right. That's why we use the title today, that it's Society, Ethics, and Economy, because it really has. And a future series will be on education, which in itself is another big Pandora's box. I deal with that every day. And also employment, like you already alluded to. But today we're just focusing on some of these stringent elements that you already highlighted. Regulatory guidelines have always been behind, but this time I think, because you mentioned already, all three of you, the speed of adoption has completely annihilated anybody's capabilities to do the typical governance structure, guardrails they have in place, and the digital ethics programs they have are sluggish. They're not able to deal with something that's instant like this and spread so fast. So I really appreciated all your comments. Maybe for round 2, we can do a deeper dive now to educate and inform some of our audiences about some of the very specific concerns on the ethics side and regulatory side. When we say the AI Act, maybe we can highlight exactly, for instance, would it be in high risk? When we talk about data governance, maybe we can touch a little bit on also informed consent, which is one of my main areas. I'm very worried that people don't truly understand when they access a tool, that they really, if they give consent, that they truly understand consent, if they're even asked. And then maybe we can also talk a little bit about what you would all recommend to make sure that we uphold some of the at least key ethics principles that we always advocate when we deploy any emerging technology. So let's go again. Lavina first, then Anna, then Katja.
Yeah, I think, we have quite a nice segue right now in terms of, taking an observation of how we've always behaved as humanity, right? We've pretty much functioned as humans, intellect, and social. That's been pretty much the way that we've always engaged, whether that was with business, whether that was with economies, whether that was with each other, whether that was through animals, whatever the case may be. There was some level of, engagement between those three areas. Now, all of a sudden, we're bringing in this perceived new intellect into this whole dynamic, right? Which throws a little bit of a coin into this spinning world of ours, right? And so you can imagine there's probably a good few areas that we need to talk about. One is absolutely around security and privacy. That in itself is so huge, and that kind of stems again from the whole data conversation. Is the people that are actually generating the data, the owners of the data, are they the ones that we need to protect and secure? The whole privacy end of it is if you generate something, and you want to share it, you should have the right to unshare it at any given point in time. Those things become quite ingrained as we become a lot more integrated. So what this entire sort of generative AI allows us to do is it allows for a lot of the technologies on the back end and the infrastructure layer to kind of get more segmented or more cemented together, right? So more glued. And when that happens, it's going to start to become very difficult for us to tell one service from the other, right? When we go from one environment to another, it's going to happen so seamlessly, and to some extent, we're already experiencing that. And that would be to the likes of, has AI generated something or has a human generated something? Is there an actual need for us to understand whether or not, there's validity in knowing who's generated it and why? Nowadays, there's a huge talk around, possibly introducing AI incorporation. So allowing AIs to actually incorporate themselves and become an entity that it stands by itself and can earn and can, have an entire organization. And I think we were privy to that last year, where there is a CEO that is an AI. It's in the metaverse company. And, that in itself has kind of taken us by surprise, but life's moved on, right? We get surprised and we just kind of deal with it and move forward. But as, Katja mentioned, we almost becoming very numbed to all of this that's actually happening around us.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's insane because, you know, this is the point where we need to be the most alert, because it's that pivotal point where we can actually redefine or change the direction, right? A lot of, from a psychological perspective, it's about how you shape something and how you frame it. And, you know, we're at that point right now where we can choose to decide if this tool is actually an extension of humanity and to what extent, or is it going to be that fear conundrum of what we're sitting with that's going to overtake everything? So if that's going to happen, let's just sit back and, you know, watch it happen. So, you know, those are some of the things that we kind of deal with. I think in the video as well, we kind of mentioned, you know, this this need of analysis of data, which is, you know, quite intrusive. And from an ethical standpoint, I think, you know, it's getting to the point of already being far too invasive. I mean, there's a city already, I think, in the likes of Asia that's set up where every single thing of yours, every single movement, every single thought, whatever it is already being, you know, observed. So every single data point is already being collected. And people willfully actually signed up for things like that and to live in those environments. So this need to always be plugged in is becoming more and more heightened, right? But, you know, just as a reminder, you know, the African continent isn't always plugged in. From an infrastructure perspective, we don't have that as a 24/7 standard, right? We don't have basics of electricity that could keep us plugged in. So again, we have a
talking about electricity and connectivity. It's exactly at that time. I'm sure Lavina's gonna be back. Maybe Anna, you can start your comments and then I'll get Lavina to finish her statement.
Yes, sure. Good. So as I mentioned to you before, it is all about data. And me, as a big advocate of data governance, I would like to focus a bit on this specific subject. So key to data successful handling is this data governance. This is a major challenge as well as a great opportunity to create, in fact, added value from all this existing data, to extract knowledge from data, innovate and develop new business models in a secure and trustworthy manner. So data governance builds on the principle of decentralized data ecosystems and is a key to successful implementation, specifically the decentralized data ecosystems. So by data governance, I mean that in the most efficient way, it's to establish professional and meaningful data management in every corporation, every institution. Efficient because it takes into account not only technical, but also organizational aspects of the implementation and the way it conserves resources. So the main goal of data governance is to harmonize data systems through collaborative processes and to ensure that data is consistent, trustworthy, and is not misused. At the organization I am representing today, the Data Intelligence Initiative in Austria, we are raising awareness and share experiences regarding data governance issues, specifically through the establishment of so-called data spaces, where the data is shared in specific, trustful and secure manner, creating new use cases, creating added value from existing available data. So the availability of data of the appropriate quality is the basic prerequisite for the implementation of such data-driven solutions quickly and efficiently. So to create such transparency about existing data governance dimensions from strategy, processes, and structures, Europe, for example, has established the Data Governance Act, which just days ago it's now setting the full under signature, let's say. Next days we'll figure it out. So, and now they are doing that to do a cross-sectorial instrument that aims to make more data available, and by regulating the reuse of publicly held protected data, and by boosting data sharing through the regulation of these new data intermediaries, and encourage the sharing of data for altruistic purposes. So Gaia X in Europe is another initiative that develops, based on European values, a digital governance that can be applied to any existing cloud edge technology to obtain transparency, controllability, portability, interoperability across data. So companies must develop data management maturity assessments. It's a recent study. Germany ranked only number 13 in the data maturity level across Europe. So all the countries must speed up the processes, must be really in line with all the transformation going on, not to be left behind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now I would love to hear Katya's comments, and I know some of them, but to our audience, maybe you can highlight the magnitude of your concerns about the ethics of generative AI.
You know, Ingrid, you rightfully said, let's turn to what we have. And right now we do have the GDPR, 2018, 25th of May, and it's 5 years later. And the two main points and the novelties of GDPR at that time were the notion of accountability. And accountability in ethics is crucial. And there was a second very important concept that emanated out of GDPR, which was transparency. And Anna rightfully said, for the data, the governance of data, that is absolutely crucial within the entire data lifetime cycle, from collection to storage to processing to dissemination. And so it's really good to understand what's happening there. When we come back to ethics, we do have this notion of accountability. And I think with the scope we have right now with generative AI systems, we need to change our perspective a little bit. We need to go beyond the product that has been launched on the market. We need to see the systems by itself. And, you know, I have been teaching for 12 years at the Sorbonne. I've been teaching information systems in logistics. And in this regard, I think a logistician view, which is a different perspective. You have a holistic view. You look upstream and downstream. You look at the entire supply chain. And supply chains are complex. And with these systems here, which incorporate uncertainty, we need absolutely to focus on what I personally call the chain of accountability and transparency. It is a chain because you will have so many actors, especially when the modules will be plugged into existing business processes. We will have an upstream engineer, we will have a downstream engineer, we will have the end user, and we will have to check the entire flow there, the entire flow of accountability, the entire flow of transparency. And we need to think about concepts such as ethical frameworks in engineering. Mm-hmm. We need to think about risk management. Look what's happening right now with Bing, with Microsoft. They issued, they are right now doing crisis management because they are telling us, well, we know our system is going rogue, but that's inherent of the system. The more you input, the more it gets out of control. So we need to calibrate. We need to do different calibrations. And from this regard, we need to look at this phenomenon from a holistic view, not just a product view. And I think that's really important in order to align with ethical values, to align with all the values that are dear to us, to all of us. I think everybody is around here wants to be responsible, wants to respect. These are fundamental rights. And we all love innovation, but we want responsible innovation. That's a major difference. And we all work for that. And Lavina said, and she's back.
Yeah, she's back.
Yes. And she pointed to the psychological side. And I love that because, you know, we have a human challenge there. We are the creator of a system. And normally the creator falls in love with the creation. That's called the Pygmalion effect. And what happens here is, especially with generative AI systems, they create new content. They shape us as well. So we are being shaped back. And there I see a major ethical, let's say, need for ethics. To tell people about the ethos. Ethics is about the ethos. What are we about? Where are limits? What shouldn't we do? And Lavina, she said, well, there will be a point in time we are not able anymore to make the difference between human-generated content and machine-generated content. And that's Asimov's law. You need to be identifiable as a machine or as a human. And this is very disturbing for us humans. And another part is they always tell us, and I'm an advocate for, let's say, organic ethics, not metallic ethics. I like people, I like to help people. And, you know, the ethos right now, confronted with machines, people tend to underestimate themselves and overestimate the machine. And they always tell us, trust the machine. We should build trust into the machines. No, we have to build trust into ourselves in order to be capable to live with the machines, because we will be living with it. But we need to have arms, weapons. We need to have a backbone for that. And we need to feel confident about it. When Bing tells us carbonara is a red sauce, we say, no, you're stupid. Carbonara is a white sauce. And so this confidence, we need to gain it back. And I'm really an advocate for pushing people to be alert, to be vigilant, because what we said in the automotive sector, the term of vigilance, and especially with automated cars, is extremely important, because there is one point in time where we lose our vigilance. Like Lavina said, we are getting numb to it. We sit in our car and we know we are on co-pilot, not on autopilot. And we lose we don't really watch anymore. And this is what we really need to do. We need to be vigilant for our ethos. That's very important. How we want to be in the future with technology. And that's a challenge. That's a massive challenge. But together, I think we are we are not stupid. We created intelligence, apparently, artificial intelligence. So come on.
So you're bringing up a very important point of augmented intelligence, and I've been pushing for that because I think the term artificial is also causing a lot of confusion. But I think even more now with everything that's going on, understanding that digital trust in augmented intelligence is threefold, right? It's trust, like you said. Humans need to trust themselves in their expertise and be vigilant.
Absolutely.
The corporations that release all the types of AIs need to be also responsible and have trust in their own operations, right? And in their own teams.
Yeah.
And then also the human-computer interaction, which is that augmented intelligence. We need to have that trust, because now it's lost. I think we need to regain it. The way this has been launched, unfortunately, is not necessarily helping with trust in society. I think you all brought up also the fact that we need to increase digital literacy. It's come up in all of your comments. So I think in order to have the public stand up and be able to contribute to all these changes, we need to increase that ability to understand what's going on and the implications. So for the last round, maybe because we highlighted a lot of the negatives, but I always like to offer solutions. So let's do the last round with, if you are in front of a board or the C-suite is listening to you, or we are in a consortium or a task force, what would be your main advice to do it better so that we don't keep repeating mistakes from the past? So we'll go Anna, Katya, and then I'll let Lavina do the last comment because she was offline a little bit. Anna?
Thank you. Yes. So basically, you know,
Solution.
everybody, yeah, exactly. Everybody have to ask themselves, and the real question is, does it now start the future of artificial intelligence? So the ChatGPT really came in as a revolutionary proof what it's possible. And that's why now is the phase that we experience that researchers are building these chatbots to help humans achieving certain tasks, but humans are deciding how to use them. So OpenAI basically is now observing how the people are using this technology. Is it a social experiment from my point of view? How people will use it? What are the problems emerging? How to prepare for a good future where this technology is safe and trustworthy? So I'm really curious to see the areas where it will start generating utility for people and not just novelty and pure curiosity. However, I do have to say that I believe excessive use of this AI is likely to have regressive effect on natural intelligence. At least there is a substantial threat. So, and you see OpenAI, when they opened it to so many people from so many different backgrounds and domain expertise, we will definitely get surprised by the kinds of things this can do, this technology, on both positive and negative sides. So the next few months will really show how people tend to use this technology. And perhaps then OpenAI will open its gates to developers who will align to data governance and ethical rules of conduct and build applications that can help people solve tasks. Because at this point, chat is quite general. So in this unique moment we live, we have to see how this technology will shape us and how we will shape it. It is very important for everyone to start getting involved, given the impact of these technologies. And if I were the CEO of the board, definitely I would be on top of every new regenerative AI tool, what comes up and could help my company.
Thank you so much. Katya, if I bring you now to the task force, to the European Union, what are you going to tell them?
Well, I would say first we need to move away from what Anna also mentioned. We need to move away from this general purpose AI because it doesn't mean anything. General purpose is no purpose. You can use it, you don't use it. We have to find a purpose right now in generative AI. And I think that's one of the major problems right now. But I really believe it is a fantastic opportunity, even though I may sound negative. But in the future, it will be industry driven. It will be very much purpose related towards industries in healthcare, in education, in logistics, in finance. Because what will happen? All these, it will be operational. It's moving away from the entertainment thing. Being the advertising, it's moving out of the advertising industry into the real industries. It will be integrated in existing systems. That's what's going to happen. And what I really feel, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think that a new cohort of leaders will appear. Big tech, it's not the future. They actually shoot themselves. Because now, with generative AI being adopted and widespread and into industries, coupled with Oracle, SAP, and other ERPs, well, they have industry-specific data. It will be a powerful tools, but very specific tools. And that I see as a major, major opportunity. Because what is it going to do? It will transform work. It will transform workflows. It will transform skill sets. There will be new skill sets that we need. And there will be also a new form of ethics. And I'm happy about that. And I have to tell you, we at the House of Ethics, we are really advocates for a new kind of ethics. And just recently, we proposed a very novel concept, which we have entitled swarm ethics. And in May, we will have the first presentation ever in Chicago at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And swarm ethics is actually emerging ethics versus hard-coded ethics with which we are faced right now. So emerging ethics, it is an ethics based on interactivity. It's ethics based on digital, on speed and on behavior. It's completely
more
different.
dynamic, more dynamic. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. It's fast. It's shape, it takes different shapes. We don't have any more elite who's going to tell us you have to do this, you have to do that. Ethics is organic, and that is something very new, and I see it as a major opportunity. Let me just show you something, because I was laughing about it, so I need to show you that. It was the 2023 Gartner Emerging Technology Trends. I don't know if you...
Yeah, it's good. We can see, yeah.
You see here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here you have generative AI, far away from the center. That's what they predicted in 5 or 6 years. Right now we are here. So much for predicting trends. We live trends. We live ethics. And that's the major importance here. And, I love a French chemist. It's Antoine Lavoisier. And he said, rien ne se perd, rien ne se crée, tout se transforme. Nothing is lost. Nothing is created. Everything is transformed. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. It's not about being bad or good. It's about going on, moving on, but responsibly. And that's, I really see it as an enormous opportunity, but with regulatory safeguards, with ethical frames, and industry specific, with accountability and transparency. I see it as an enormous opportunity, even though I sounded rather negative. Cautious, prudence.
So transformational digital ethics for pre-trained transformers. We found a new, great. So Lavina will allow you to have the closing statement. We're having only 3 more minutes. We know you dropped off exactly when you were talking about that the African continent doesn't have electricity 24/7. You dropped off. So please go ahead.
I know, call it serendipitous. So, from an algorithm perspective, I guess it's about, ensuring the that it's very much interpretable. That means anyone can actually understand it. That for me is key. The explainability portion of it, the transparency portion. So that's from an algorithmic perspective, right? But when we talk about us engaging, I think, the rights. So whether we talk about human rights, whether we talk about what I've termed coded rights, which is the whole tech rights, all of it is going to play a large portion. Whether we talk about data rights, that's still going to fall in that. So I think there needs to be a place for that, whether it is a legislation, whether it's a bill, whether it is some form of a framework. I would even go even further and say that we could establish, ethical boards that can start, pretty much assisting and aiding traditional companies in terms of changing and going through this transition that it actually needs to happen. So that's almost like a tangible outcome for that. But I think generative AI as a whole, just as the cool kind of tech that it is, it's going to go very much into personalization. And that's just a natural gravitation from digital nudging into personalization. With that, we're going to see a lot of design work where it's going to come about, whether we talk about pharmaceuticals, whether we talk about chip manufacturing, whether we talk about optimization of car parts, whatever it may be, right? That's going to be the other kind of area that it's going to really boom into. And, I'd probably just end off with saying that, again, we're at a moment in history and time, to really embrace our future. And with that, we've got to really start investing in us as humanity again. which is something we've really stopped doing a long time ago. So I hope that was in your 3 minutes.
That's beautiful. So we could have not ended the segment on a better note. And I want to bring a call to action to all our audience to encourage every corporation to have a digital ethics program in place. And we encourage you to also make sure that you differentiate between regulatory guidelines and ethics, because that's another big confusion. And hopefully we'll have another series very soon, because we have so much to talk about. I feel we could talk about a whole week and we would not be done. So thank you to all of you. Also, thank you to Bhuva for the wonderful keynote, and to Women in AI for all the amazing opportunities that it brings to us. And thanks again. Beautiful time together and amazing insights. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.